there is a saying over here. Revenue is vanity. Profit is sanity. Cash is king.
Yes.
And money is trust.
Hi, I'm Michelle Bosch, real estate investor, mom, wife, and host of the InFLOW podcast. And I'm passionate about helping women invest in land and apartments. Join me each and every week for real estate investing strategies and interviews with thought leaders that will leave you inspired and ready to step into flow for inflows of cash, inflows of ease, and inflows of grace in your life. Now, here on YouTube are the video versions of my podcast, and in order for you to get my latest information, please go ahead and subscribe. And now, let's go. Welcome to the InFLOW podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Bosch. I am super excited this morning to have a very good friend of mine who happens to be also a fellow Chief Financial Officer. And her name is Christina. Christina, can I make sure that I don't butcher your last name? Can you pronounce your last name?
It's Sjahli, so the J is silent.
Yeah, I've always Christina here, Christina there, and I'm like, I've always avoided the.
Oh no, trust me, I know.
So welcome to the show. Excited to have you here.
Thank you.
So Christina is an on-demand Chief Financial Officer. She is obsessed, I think pretty much like I am, with the magic of numbers, and the story that those tell, because behind a number is really an activity that someone in your company is performing. And they really help, us entrepreneurs be able to fly the plane, with gauges on by looking at gauges. Otherwise, it's like flying a plane and trying to land it without looking at, how many feet above the ground you're at. So I'm excited to have her here. She's really good at showing entrepreneurs, the power of how those numbers can really help you, fuel your business and fuel your life, so that you're spending, your time, resources, energy, and effort on the right things. So excited to have you here, Christina. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Michelle. Happy to be here.
Yes. So Christina, tell us, how did you grow up around money? I always like, talking money. I don't know, in our family, that is a topic that is not necessarily taboo at all. We talk about it all the time. And so how did you grow up around money, and how does that, did that affect your trajectory in terms of deciding to go for a finance degree to become a CFO? Just tell us all about it.
Sure. Well, it's interesting when I look back about how I grew up with money, and then this question never came up to me. When I was growing up, I just know that we need money to live. Right? Like we all do. And,
it's something that people say, we shouldn't be talking about money. But if you don't talk about money, you may end up sleeping out on the street. So
exactly.
You need to talk about money.
The one that always talk about money is actually my mom. Right? Mm-hmm. So my mom is a housewife. She stay home. She worked for a little bit before she got married. And then after that, she just basically taking care of me and my siblings. I have 2 other siblings. My dad is the one that is hardworking. Mm-hmm. Now, here's the funny part. Both of them grew up poor, very, very poor. They had, their dad passed away. So my grandpa passed away when they were very, very little, right? Okay. But my dad is a very hardworking person. He also in finance. It's interesting. He's also in finance. He was a CFO as well. Mm-hmm. And he's very good with his money. He thinks about long term. Yeah. He's very responsible because he has 3 kids, and then he wants to give the best for us. It's not for him, it's about giving the experience instead of the money itself. He wants to create memories with us. Right? So he's using money as a tool. His mindset is very abundance mindset in my mind, right? So he saved enough to make sure that the family is taken care of. Now, my mom on the other side is very scarcity mindset. Mm-hmm. I still remember growing up, she always told me, she said, don't spend your money. It's going to come and it's going to go. And then something's going to happen and it's just going to go away. You know, that mentality.
Yeah, a little, the Latin America is a little bit like that, a little bit doomsday, who knows, a little bit pessimistic, fatalistic, almost to the point. Yeah, I totally get it. Yeah.
So, she always told me, she said, don't spend your money, be careful. But one thing that she always told me, she said, as a woman, and I think she's probably felt this. She said, as a woman, I have 3 daughters. I want to make sure that you guys are financially independent. Mm-hmm. You have to be financially independent. Don't depend on anybody, right? So, it's interesting to me when you ask that question, because I look at the abundance and the scarcity, and then how is that impacting me? So it's impacting me in both ways. In an abundance mindset, like I shouldn't, I think let's start with the scarcity, because that's impacting me the most. I always feel like I always need to save my money. Mm-hmm. Like I always feel like my money is going to run out. So I better save it right now, because if not, I'm never going to get it back. And then I always think like it's hard to get money inflow to your life. Yeah. It's something that I struggle. When you are an employee, money comes in, right? When you are an entrepreneur, you have to feel it inside you, and then you cannot keep putting pressure for yourself, thinking about, I need to make sale, I need to make a sale, I need to make money, right?
So the more that you despair, it's almost like, your potential clients can feel that, and the more that they're repelled. I don't know if that's your
yes, exactly. Like it feels your clients, whoever you're gonna talk to, gonna feel that pressure. Yeah. Right. So I really have to switch that mindset, the scarcity mindset. And then in terms of the abundance, the way I look at it, I see money as a tool to provide the memory and the experience for my son. Yeah. And then that's, it's a tool that the way I look at it, I said, okay, you know what? Like I have enough to provide the experience. Yeah. Now, if I gonna want more, what is that going to do is it for my family? Is it for the world? Do I have a mission? I don't want to just, try to make more and more money without purpose. Yeah. So I don't know if that is like makes sense to you. Like,
no, it completely makes sense to me. Because if you think about strategic growth requires like a stabilizing energy. And an energy of acceleration. And it's almost like, mom is giving you the background or context for, yes, being frugal with your money, taking care of your money, respect your money, and kind of like a stabilizing, make sure, that you are, thinking about the future, not just right now. And that is also methodic and long-term, but he's willing to perhaps take a little bit more risks, for the sake of growing his money and accelerating, the growth of his money and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, you need both of those things in order to, to really experience growth.
Balance. Yes. And it's funny you said that, because my dad actually think long-term, and then he invested in land. Mm-hmm. And he invested in land from the very beginning. I still remember he was the one, him and my mom used to fight, like, I still remember, because he wants to buy more and more land, like real estate property. And then my mom said, no, don't use all the money. Like it's interesting.
Yeah, and we know women, generally speaking, we are wired for safety, for things that, for sustainment, not for entertainment, but sustainment, you know what I mean? And so anything that, jeopardizes or is outside of that bubble of safety, you know what I mean, is a little bit intimidating and with good reason. Anytime in the past that we would either speak out, in time, and not too long ago, we would get stoned if you say the wrong things. So anything that is outside of safety, it's like almost like hardwired into us to like, okay, if it's not safe and if I don't understand it, if I don't get it, it's better not to do anything about it. You know what I mean? And so on.
Yes, I know. And then,
it's a problem of abdicating a little bit of our power when it comes to money and finance. I think it's something that perhaps men don't have to struggle as much as women do, for sure.
Oh, definitely. And then I heard somebody was saying to me, like, women, get stuck in this analysis paralysis. However, because of that, we are also the best problem solver in consideration, in comparison to men. And I think women are start to rise up nowadays. We speak up.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, so for us, there was a stage in our business where we, like everyone, we're in startup mode, and you're saying yes to everything, and yes to every client, and all your focus, is revenue. And at some point, you grow up from that and, start entering as a business, the stage of adolescence and adulthood. And you realize, after several years of saying yes to everything and your focus being top line, basically revenue, that at the end of the day, you might be ending up with, profits that are similar to what you had in your job. And you realize, oh my gosh, I just switched, from one job to another job that seems to be glorified by the word entrepreneurship. And so how do you help, your clients, your businesses, for example, make that shift from the focus being revenue to profits?
Okay, that's a great question. So when I first meet up with any clients, or, the first thing that I always ask is that, what is your vision? Where do you see your business in the next 5 to 10 years? That's one. And second, I ask, what is the legacy that you want to leave behind? Okay. It doesn't mean it has to be, something so grand, something so big. As simple as, okay, I want to give financial security to my family. That's a legacy, right? Some of them may say, you know what? I want to create gender equality. I want to give more opportunity to women. So I always start from the big picture first. Where do you want to go? Then once I start from the big picture, then we can dive into the details. Because I find, like, if I look at from the details, everybody's going to get caught up on the details and then not knowing where do you really want to go. And you really, for me, my approach has always been, look at the big picture first. Where do you want to go? And then let's dive in one level deeper and then see. Because at the end of the day, if you do not know where you at right now, what are your financial struggle? What are the best offering that can give you the best profit? Then you really don't know where to start. So after I look at the big picture, then I start diving into their system, their process. I ask about what are their marketing strategy? Where do they spend the money on marketing? We all know, a lot of business owners are spending money. They don't even know, what is their conversion rate from lead to prospect to clients, right? So that's one. And then the second thing, I look at, what do you offer? How many offers do you have? And I still remember my conversation with you, Michelle, for my podcast, how you were you didn't focus on land before. You were trying to branch out to so many things at the very beginning. Then you pull back and then you said, no. I need to focus on one thing. My advice to all the clients is that make one thing work first. Master that. Once you master that, then you can move on to the next level. Now, after I look at all the revenue, obviously, I'm going to look at all the expenses. Now, and then I really want to break down to the micro level for them. For each offer, if you have several offers, I need them to see what are your profit for each offer. Without that, you do not know where you need to focus your effort. Now, what I really found working with a lot of clients, when they start looking at the profit, what they forget is that the time that they spend on each of the offer. They're just thinking expenses are the money that they spend to their subcontractor, to their employees, the payroll that they pay. They forget about that, and then they forget to allocate their marketing expenses. So when they look at it, it seems like it's like a vanity number. It seems like one offer is giving them more profit than the others. But when you start breaking down, including their hours that they spend, their overhead, because, as a business owner, we all know it's not only the time that you spend with your client. You have to do your own marketing. You have to develop product. How do you allocate that to each product?
Yes.
Right?
And just, for our listeners, if you're thinking, if you're listening to this and what you have been primarily doing is, flipping land, what Christina really is talking about, which we had to do, with Jack back in the day as well, is to really sit down at some point and realize, oh my gosh, there's low value properties that are giving us anywhere between $5,000 to $10,000 or even $15,000 spreads that are great spreads, But when you start really, attributing all the marketing costs and every single expense that goes towards producing those kinds of profits, you recognize that perhaps those profits are not as great as you thought they were, and that you perhaps need to start focusing on a different type of property, in a different area, maybe a higher priced property, maybe a property that, will bring in spreads of $30,000 to $50,000 that is going to require the exact same effort to flip the ones where you have a spread of 5 to 10 or 15, and you're doing the exact same work, but you're doing it with higher priced property. And all of a sudden, that results in a much, much larger take home, amount, after you've subtracted those expenses. And exactly, that this, amount of mailings and marketing when it comes to acquiring the property and selling the property, if you attribute it to each of those flips, results in X amount of profits, you'll notice there's certain properties, there's certain areas where I'm making much more money than others, and you stop saying yes to those deals. But in the beginning, we have to say yes to everything because we just want to get the money in.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And then it's absolutely like it's very interesting for me when I see people came to me and then they have 10 offers that they are selling out there. And I said, okay, well, how many hours do you work on each one of them? Nobody keep track their hours. And then I know it's very tedious. And then that is one of the first thing that I ask my client, keep track your hours. I want you to keep track your hours, and I want you to keep track the hours of your team spent on each project. It may sound tedious right now, but I guarantee you, if you're doing this for the next month, you will see a tremendous result and realization and clarity.
Yeah.
If product A, you said it's making the most profit, but once you allocate your own overhead and your team overhead, is it really making profit for you?
Yeah.
So, again, like going back from the big picture and then go to the details. I'm a true believer. If you don't look at the historical numbers, you won't be able to connect the dot between the historical and the future. And I'm sure you know this because you do valuation, right? Like for me, I'm doing a long-term model for my clients, 5 to 10 years, using different scenario depending on what do they want to accomplish in 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, if, everything that you measure improves. If you don't measure it, it for sure won't improve.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So let's start with that. And so what are some key metrics that you think that for any beginning business owner, whether, it's an entrepreneur in the real estate space or in any industry, what are some key metrics that we should always, keep at the forefront? Even if it's, oh my God, just mental accounting, but what are a few of them to keep in mind?
Yep. So I always said, don't look at, I have something that I told my clients, are you looking at fairy tale metrics? Metrics that makes you look good.
Yeah.
And makes you feel good that my business is doing well. And then what are those fairy tale metrics? This is something that nobody wants to do, okay? So I'm going to do a comparison over here. So total revenue. Yeah. To me, when you look at total, that means nothing.
Yeah.
It looks good. It looks great because when you think about total, it's always going to increase. It's never going to decrease a lot of time. And then the second thing is like total profit. I don't want to look at that. So
you want to look at trends month to month, where.
Yes. And then I even go a little bit deeper. I want to look at revenue by product and profit by product.
Yeah.
And I also want to look at the type of clients. I don't want to look at total number of clients. What I found is that when you look at the micro level, the type of client that you work with, and then you can always break down the type of client. Either that is the client location, like if you want to break it down by region, or the type of industry. Even you can break it down the type of the personality that you work with. I really believe in
person.
that.
Yeah.
Do I want to work with a person with a type A personality? Do I want to work with an extrovert? Like, you have to think about who do I enjoy to work with. So when I look at it, revenue is by product, has to be by product. Profit, it has to be by profit. So when I prepare a dashboard, one of the things is that, I always break it down. Product A, okay, sales from product A, product B, product C. Cost of goods sold or expenses for product A, product B, product C, and then the net profit for each one of them. Those are the key metrics that I always want my client to look at. And marketing strategy, marketing metrics by type of marketing. We all know that, right? But I think we all forget about it. Like I would work with
basically to have the discipline and be diligent to track it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That's the thing.
Like it's interesting. Like, one of my client right now, like she has a school, and then she's doing all this marketing. She's doing like Google ads. She's doing Facebook ads, and she is going out there to different events. And she spent a tremendous amount of money. And then I said, okay, but where do you get your clients the most? And then she said, well, I don't know. I said, so you spend hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, but you don't really know where it is. So let's fix that. Like, I really want you, let's set up a system, and then figure out like how you can keep track on those. So
we actually have quite a bit of students that, that do our land profit generator method. And a lot of them don't have what we call the investment Dominator, which is a proprietary software that we've developed. Basically, that software is doing a lot of the workflow, from the moment that you from the moment that you send mailings out to acquire the property all the way until you sell it. So it gives you a lot of reports, that unless, you have this information easily, available, there's going to be some kind of investments in software or in tracking in order for you to be able to have this information or a dashboard, that is easily accessible. And it's that mindset of investing in your business, whether it be in team, in software, to be able to capture that information. Because what that then does for us, for a lot of the clients that do take the leap and, work the software, is that it shows them, per mailing, per region, these are the actual profits that you have created, the potential profits that you have in the pipeline based on how many offers have been accepted, how many contracts have been accepted, and so on and so forth. But sometimes it's difficult to help, people understand that having that kind of optics and that kind of like insight into your business can really turbocharge and help you engineer that next level of growth. You know what I mean? So I totally get exactly what you're saying. And that's I don't know if you have that same mental hurdle with clients where they're like, okay, if we're gonna really use our numbers and the power of our numbers, we need to invest a little bit in the technology that is going to make it easy for us to be able to measure, to to have reports, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. But here's the interesting part, okay? Because some of my clients, they have the tools.
Yeah.
That's the interesting part. They have the tools. But first, either they don't use it properly, or if it's being captured, they don't review it. So when you look at So when they look at this marketing expenses or whatever expenses that is, like hiring, like I also look at like hiring metrics, right? Like, I mean, your payroll per person. Like if you have like 100 employees, you have to know if each one of the roles are important to your business, right? Like not everybody is equally important. You have to be strategic. It doesn't mean that you don't treat your employees well. Actually, you should spend money on your best employee instead of hiring a lot of people, but you cannot pay them good dollar, right? You don't appreciate them in that regard. But anyway, so they have the tools, but they don't use it. So it's a little bit, it's interesting. And then, like sometimes I just have to be straightforward. And then I just have to be honest with them. And then I said, hey, look.
Yeah. How often do you have them, do you recommend us be looking at your numbers? The more often that you look at your numbers has been my experience is the more often that you can, if you have, a goal, the more often you look at where you're at against the goal, the more often you're able to, orient yourself towards that goal, because, the longer it takes for you to look at it, the further away you are, from having to come back to where you should be,
Exactly.
How often in general, I mean, would be to begin with, if somebody is only looking at their numbers when taxes come due, and depending on how the, that net number looks, you either have one drink or you have two drinks because it looks really bad. We always say, oh my God, if we're making money, we had a time where we're like, oh my gosh, we're making money. Let's have a glass of wine. Oh my God, we're not making money. Let's have two glasses. So
that is a very good way to put it out there, Michelle.
Yeah. So I mean, and now, eventually then we moved into, okay, let's start doing this quarterly. And now let's start looking at this monthly. And now that we have actually large multifamily, we have to be doing asset management and looking at numbers weekly. Because weekly number of applicants, weekly number of move outs, when it comes to our apartment, that's something we were just discussing yesterday with one of our property managers. We're seeing, a rise in delinquency from last week to this week. What's going on, why are people, how come are people losing their jobs? Is it something in general systemic in the economic of that market? Or is it that, and then what it came out was like, we have a property next door, a neighboring property that is basically, 40% vacant because they just bought them. They're cleaning out house. And in order to fill that property back up, they're lowering rents and competing with our rents, even though our property is superior, but people are rather move out and go over there, or, you know what I mean? So, so there's so many aspects. And if we wouldn't be looking at this on a weekly basis, we, by the time we find out, it would be the end of the month and there wouldn't be enough profits to distribute to our investors. So for us, there's certain things that require us looking at things weekly, and some others where you can, I can do this monthly. And then there's some others I'm like, I can do this quarterly, so what do you start your clients with?
Okay. So it really depends on where they at, right?
Yeah.
So the first thing that after I look at the big pictures and going into the details, the next step is that I ask them, how do you monitor your cash flow on a weekly basis?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, profits are not going to pay your bills, but cash
Exactly. So cash is king. There is a saying over here, revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, cash is king.
Yes.
And money is trust. And then I believe that, right? Like if you when at the end of the day, cash is going to help you to get where you want to be. Okay. That cash is your tool to accomplish your mission. Whatever is your mission, even as simple as you want to provide for your family, you want to give a good life to your family, that's your tool. Okay. So and then I don't know how many resistance that I receive from them to look at their cash on a monthly basis. I have a template. I have a 13 weeks cash flow template that I give out to all my clients. And I basically break it down. They have to understand how many clients they're going to get that week, right? What is your average price That is your estimated revenue, your cash inflow. And then you have to understand, you have to go back to the last 12 months, and then you're going to go each week and understand it, like what are your expenses each week. Because, it's a combination of looking at the past and also thinking, what am I going to invest in the next few months?
Yeah.
And then when it's 13 weeks, it's by quarter, right? You're looking ahead 3 months, right? And then in that cash flow template, I also built in like how much profit you want to save each week. How much profit you want to save each week, and then how much investment, the one-time expenses. Let's say that you are creating a new offer, an online product, right? And then you need an investment. Either it's investment of your time, or it's marketing, or hiring a subcontractor.
Yeah.
So you need to break it down over the next 13 weeks. What do you want to do? What is your plan?
Yeah.
Okay. So from there, then you have to look at it on a monthly basis. And then the quarterly basis, right? And then, when you do monthly and quarterly, it's not only looking at the cash flow. If you set up a proper budget at the very beginning, okay, when you set up a budget, you have an assumption on what the future is going to look like. If a lot of people think that assumption is not going to change, and that's wrong, right? Like it's life, it's business.
Yeah,
like
everything that you plan, believe me, like any plan that we've ever made, within the first few days of execution, we're like, oh shit, well, at least we have a target with the plan, but we're gonna have to adjust our plan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what is the resistance though? And then what a lot of entrepreneurs, I don't know if you heard this from your clients when you are teaching them about finance, they're saying, then what's the point of me making a plan? Well, I said, that's your GPS. That's your map on how you're going to get there.
Direction. Yeah. Absolutely.
Exactly. So do you think if you plan a trip from point A to point B and your GPS is saying that there is a traffic jam in front of you or there is a road construction, do you think the GPS is going to tell you to pass through that and then delay your journey? Or the GPS is going to tell you, okay, you need to take a turn to the right and then to the left to get to your journey faster?
Yeah.
Which one is it, right? So when you're creating a plan, a budget, that means you have to review it, because only when you review it, you realize like, oh shoot, there is a problem here. I don't hit my target for revenue, but yet I have a big expenses in the weeks to come. So what should I do? Do I need to spend on that expenses that I predicted like, a few weeks ago, or should I delay it and then figure out a way to increase my revenue?
Yeah.
So, reviewing every month is very important. And then, once you know what's going on in that month, and then if the situation change, then you have to do a new projection. You have to do a new forecast for the next quarter and the next year.
Yeah.
Like you cannot stay static. Finance is not static. Finance is a dynamic process.
Yeah, absolutely. And something that just came to mind right now, that is so important to mention, that you kind of alluded to it, is the importance of knowing our cash burn rate. Basically, how much does it cost us to stay in business, to operate our business on a monthly basis?
Mm-hmm.
That burn rate, so very few people like really know it and understand it. And it is so important to know that, oh my gosh, if you're just doing bank balance accounting, oh my God, if you have $100,000, it would be important for you to know that your burn rate, if it is $50,000 a month, that you only have 2 months worth of,
Exactly.
Reserves in order to figure things out or increase revenue. Yep. Or, pull up, some maverick trick or offering of sorts, to get going with the third month. So that's something that
I'm laughing because, another thing though, like for people who do not or don't like to monitor that cash flow on a weekly basis, when they look at their bank statement, what they forget is that a lot of people are spending on their credit cards, right? Yeah. So technically the expenses, it's already happened, but it hasn't gone out from the bank account and they forget about it, right? So like you said, it's so critical to understand your cash burn rate. That's why the 13 weeks cash flow is so important. And then especially the burn, there are fixed expenses and variable expenses. Fixed expenses is always, it's not only expenses that happen each month, but also expenses, that you are so critical to your business. Without spending that money, your business won't run. Let's say that you have an employee. I mean, your payroll, it's basically your expenses that critical to your business, and then
the
you have to spend it.
and the largest one.
Exactly. And then it's always the largest one, because you want to treat your employee, your team, the best, right? They are your family. They are part of your family, right? You want to appreciate them. You don't want to come to payroll time and then say, guys, I'm sorry, I cannot pay you this month. Like, how I would feel terrible to say that to them, right? Because they have family, they need that, right? So the cash burn rate that you mentioned is so critical, and then that's related to the fixed expenses, because variable expenses, you can juggle. You can say, you know what, I'm gonna delay it, and then I'm gonna spend it in the next 3 weeks instead of right now, because I have a priority, I have a focus. My fixed expenses are my focus, and then this is my cash burn rate, right? So that's a very good point.
Yeah. Now, Christina, what is something that you're curious about right now, whether in your business or in your life? Entrepreneurs in general, we're very curious people. Our business may be going well, it's predictable, and now we're curious about other things. So I'm just wondering, what are you curious about lately?
Well, you know what? Actually, I'm really curious right now. How can I expand my listener base for my podcast?
Yes.
That's what I'm really curious about, because I have this dream about empowering other women for financial equality.
Yeah.
Okay. And to me, I always going through my head, okay, I'm doing this type of marketing, I'm promoting it, but how can I, each quarter, I have a target on how I want to increase my listener base, and then I have a plan on how to increase them. So I'm always listening to other podcasters when they have this is my first year of podcasting, this is my second year, whatever it is, I'm curious, how can I expand my reach so women understand they need to achieve financial equality. If we want gender equality, we need to, understand how to achieve financial equality.
Yeah, I think every entrepreneur that, is purpose driven and we want to, continuously expand our reach and expand, our impact. And I think it's something that is always on our mind it's how can I touch more people? How can I bless more people? How can I get them to, learn about this? And because sometimes, we're scared about it because we don't know enough about it,
Well, yeah, that's true.
So interesting. So now, what is a weakness and a pain point that you are experiencing right now, whether in your private life or in business, and how are you going about overcoming it?
It's embarrassing to say.
It happens.
Well, okay, it's not embarrassing, but when I started this journey, what I'm really surprised about myself is actually how much insecure I am with my ability. Okay. Even though I have been in finance for so many years, but I always feel that I am not good enough. Yes. It's my imposter syndrome. Always come back.
And it's not just you in that in your specific industry. I think it's something that happens to all of us. It's this worth, this self-worth issue, mindset shift that needs to happen where perhaps especially for women, we feel like, oh my gosh, if I don't have the entire plan or the entire picture or the entire amount of knowledge, I'm not ready.
Yes.
And most men have 60% of the knowledge and information, and they go for stuff, and yes. So it
drives me crazy because I always felt like there is something.
But the first thing is awareness, being aware that you are going through this and that that it's a mental hurdle.
I know. It's just what? I felt like something is wrong with me. So I have,
the first thing that we think, yeah,
something is wrong with me. What's wrong with me? Why do I feel this way? Right? Like, why do I have to know the whole plan? And then why can't I just not live with uncertainty for a little bit? Right? So I have this amazing business coach, and then she's not only a business coach. See, I don't know. She is like multi-trade, I guess. Like, she can talk. She also like a mindset coach. I don't know, business mindset. I don't know. She's amazing. So anyway, what I learned, and then, you ask like, how do I overcome this? So what she said to me, she said, Christina, you have to embrace it. You have to accept it. It will not go away. Never.
Doubt and confusion will always be there. Yeah.
It's always going to be there. This imposter syndrome, it's part of you, part of who you are, right? And then you have to embrace it and accept it. Until you accept that, you won't be able to move on. So I started I'm like, okay, every time it hits me, I'm like, okay, you know what? Like, yes, okay. I know I have this. There is nothing wrong with me. It's normal.
Yeah.
Right.
It's something every person, actually, not just women, to be frank, men go through it as well.
I know, but they don't talk about it. Right?
They don't talk as much about it. Exactly. And I think it's almost harder if you cannot talk about it, because you have to keep this facade that because I'm the head of household and the man, that I can't show any weakness. It must actually be much harder to deal with, I feel, and that's part of why, I do what I do, even with this podcast. I want to transform, the finances for the whole family. I want the woman to be able to be empowered and equipped to step up and to be side by side, making financial decisions together as a couple, when it comes to investing, when it comes to, savings, when it comes to, growing your money, when it comes to how am I going to spend my money, or how are we going to invest in ourselves, and so on, that it be, always a decision where there's two, that it doesn't just rely on one, because we do have, quite a bit of, clientele where, it's couples, it's families. It's not just, either the man or the lady. We do have single women, a lot of single moms as well, in our ecosystem, but a lot of families as well. And that's the thing, if men are feeling that as well, how can we equip both of them to say, okay, yes, we're both feeling this, but you know what? Two heads together, work sometimes better. And then we can, knowing that we're both, perhaps a little bit uncertain, but we know exactly where we want to go, and we can see, a clear plan, at least, the first 3 steps. We might not see the last 6 to get there, but we know the first 3, you get going, and the last 3 appear in the way, And
then I think it's good how you said that, because I think when you work together, when a couple works together, as women, we always want certainty, and then we always look like far, far away. Yeah. We look at long term. We always think, okay, well, if once we get here, how are we going to get there? And then how are we going to get like 10 steps ahead, right? Yeah. But men, they're thinking, I find it short term. I just need to know how I'm going to get 1 step ahead. Then after I get there, then I'm going to take another step ahead. So it's a good balance, actually, to bring us, like women, to say, okay, you know what? We need to think long term, but we also need to think like, let's get to 1 step for now. And then the next step, then the next step. Because at the end of the day, you're going to reach whatever the end goal,
whatever destination. And we always talk about this with Jack, like even at our events, we always tell, our audience when they're there, if you're on a trip from Phoenix, because that's where I'm at, to LA, are you going to wait for all the lights to be green to start driving? No, hell no. First light is going to be green. You're going to go. Eventually, you're going to hit some red lights. But you just, as soon as that turns into a green light, but you don't wait until all the lights are green to start driving. You just go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
but I think it's finding that balance, though, Michelle. I think a lot of people, and what I found is that they don't want to think long term because they think, oh, okay, I just need to take the step, but one step at a time, which is great. You have to take action. There is no excuse of not taking action. But the problem is that, like you said, if you know you're gonna go from Phoenix to LA, and then there's so many stoplights, so many detour, do you want to go through from Phoenix to LA in a little tiny town, or you want to enjoy the scenery? You have to plan ahead, but you have to balance it by taking small steps.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, how do you incorporate, in taking those small steps and in trusting that the way will show up? How do you incorporate, faith, spirituality? What do you do on a daily basis to bring ease and grace in your life so that it meets you, and it finds you, and gives you that sense of groundedness and self-centeredness to, whatever comes my way right now, that you feel, that you're going to be taking the next step, and so on, and continue to take the next step.
Yep. So for me, I do daily meditation. So every day after I take my son to school, I do my yoga, and then I do my daily meditation. I have to do it because I felt like I'm not centered when I don't do the routine, right?
What kind of meditation do you do? Mantra or breath or?
It's breath.
Okay.
So I do the daily meditation using breath, right? And then it's a guided meditation. So last year, actually, I took a mindset course. I had a mindset coach, and then he did this recording to help me do the daily meditation regularly, right? And then each of the guided meditation that he did or he prepared for me, it has a theme, right? It's either one day it's going to be about peace of mind. And then the next day, it's going to be about abundance, how you're going to feel about abundance in your life. And then the next day, it's about empty cup, meaning that let's use your intuition to guide you where you want to go, what decision you want to make. Because as women, I find I always self-doubt, right? And then I don't trust my intuition enough. And then it got me into a lot of trouble in building my business because I don't trust that, because I always feel even though I need to make this decision, but maybe because other people are doing something else, let's do what other people is doing. And then that didn't serve me well.
Yeah. Now that's wonderful. I hear you say now, talk about mentors and coaches. You're definitely a person that when it comes to using your finances and your money, you bank on yourself. You invest in yourself a lot. And I want to commend you with that. I'm the same way. It's the shortest way, or it's the best way for me to collapse time, in terms of sometimes getting to where I want to go. And I just wanted to point that out. I heard you mentioning it a couple of times.
Yeah,
now,
because I cannot do it alone.
Yeah, absolutely. We cannot do it alone. That's exactly right. Now, what is the biggest piece of advice that you would have for women out there?
Well, because I am big on financial equality, what I'm telling other women, doesn't matter if you just started, okay? I want you to exercise financial self-care. And what do I mean by that? What I mean is that don't put yourself last when you are paying everybody else and then you pay nothing to yourself.
Yeah.
And then a lot of women are going to say, a lot of women are going to say this, Michelle, they're going to say, but I want to invest to my business. I want to invest it all to my business. And then what my answer or my response is this. Okay, if you have enough saving, or you have a spouse, or you have a partner that can support your life, then invest it all. But make that conscious decision that you want to invest for growth, right? But do not put yourself last by making excuse that you want to invest on growth. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have the oxygen for yourself, you don't have that mass, your business is going to fall apart. And unfortunately, Money is a tool for you to accomplish your mission.
Yeah.
Without that, you won't achieve it. Doesn't matter whatever is your mission.
Yeah. It's a tool that is necessary. You know, it flows in and out, and you need it to accomplish a lot of things, to make things easier, faster, further. You know what I mean? It definitely,
Yep.
I totally agree with you. Now, how can ladies find out more about you and in your on-demand CFO services? You know, bringing a CFO is not for the faint of heart when it comes to, you know, bringing someone on board full time. But I know that you offer services, you know, on demand, you know, work with several clients.
Mm-hmm.
So how can people find out more about you?
Well, first and foremost, I want your listener to jump into and listen to my podcast, because that is where you are going to find the process that other successful women entrepreneurs share. It's their best practice. So herceojourney.com. That's where you can find me.
And I was just interviewed there, and you can listen to that episode.
Yes, I just released Michelle's interview like last week. And then you know what? I love like the topic that I came up when I listened to our interview together in my podcast, Michelle. It's about legacy, because what you are doing is actually how can you leave your legacy behind? And then I am so touched by how your dad left that legacy for you. And I think that shaped, you know, it gives inspiration for you.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It's given me what I call delusional confidence. And now my hope is that Sophia can stand on the shoulders of my own delusional confidence when it comes to money and investing, and not being scared of large numbers, you know what I mean? And of getting her hands, you know, to dig into numbers for sure. And he definitely, that was the beginning for me for sure.
So that's where you can find me. And then just one last word that I wanna say to all women entrepreneurs. I said, remember this, don't feel guilty that you are bringing home some money for yourself. Don't ever feel guilty, because you deserve it. And profit is not a dirty word. It's not a dirty word. Please don't see it.
Yes. No, but I get you. There's so many mixed emotions and mixed feelings when it comes to that. Yes, I get it. So people can find you and download your podcast.
Subscribe, and you know, I have amazing guest lineup. And then Michelle, you're gonna come back in July to talk again for a different topic about financing. And then I think a lot of business owner needs to understand there are different alternatives on financing, and then what you need to prepare if you need financing. So I'm going to bring Michelle back on that one.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you. It'd be my pleasure. Thank you so much, Christina, for being here with me today and talking finance, you know, and talking money with me. I love that. And so for our listeners, again, if you want to go to her CEO journey, and, you know, follow Christina. She is an amazing lady. And it's been a pleasure having you here, Christina. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Michelle. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
I hope this episode left you feeling inspired and ready to get inflows of cash, inflows of light, and inflows of faith in your life. I welcome your reviews on iTunes. Please leave me a review and help me create an amazing community of women in flow. Thank you, as always, for sharing your voice by going to michellebosch.com and joining the conversation about this show. And while you're there, grab a copy of my 10 Commandments to Living a Life in Flow. You can also follow me on Facebook at Michelle Bosch and on Instagram at Michelle Bosch Official. Thank you very much, and until the next one.